Hi guys, welcome in. It's me, T for you, and I thought I'd take today and kind of give you guys the background of Rob. For those of you that don't know, Rob is my husband, aka Robbie, aka Robert. And Robbie has CHF, better known as congestive heart failure. And I guess we'll start from the beginning. So way back when, in the year 2000, Rob had a Harley Davidson motorcycle. We were still young. We had two children. We still have two children, but we had two children, Christopher and Brian. And life was pretty good. I had a business. I was in mortgage, and Rob was working in trucking at the time, actually. He been doing that most of his life. And I guess it was Memorial Day weekend, and him and his friends were planning a bike weekend or a bike trip. I don't know if it was necessarily the entire weekend. I believe it might have been Sunday and Monday. Long weekend, holiday weekend. So they thought they would, go for a ride. So come Friday, at the time we lived out on Long Island in a town called Massapequa Park, and my youngest was only about two, just about two, and my business was located in pretty relatively close, in a couple of towns over, so I wasn't that far, and Rob didn't work that far, just we were in either direction, so we were both about 20-25 minutes away from work in either direction. And at the time we had a live-in nanny, and Charmaine, shout out to Charmaine if you're watching, and we both had careers going. Cut right to the chase. It was Friday, Memorial Day weekend, and Rob decided that since he hadn't ridden his bike in a while, Harleys are infamous for breaking down, so he thought, you know what, let me make sure I get the bugs out, let's take it for a ride, let's just, ride it into work today, make sure everything's good, and be all set for the trip on Sunday. So I actually had a few closings in my office. At the time I ran my own mortgage company, and end of the month, always a crazy, for those of you in banking, mortgage, title companies, we get to the end of the month and we try to push on as much as we can. So I had, I think, probably at least 3 or 4 closings going on the last day of the month, Friday before a holiday. It was crazy time. So my live-in just lived in Monday through Friday, and then she'd go home on the weekends to Queens Friday night, and she was going to have off Monday, so she'd be back on Tuesday. And she asked me she'd really like to leave early on Friday. So my oldest son, he probably at the time, I'm trying to think, maybe 13, and I said, yeah, Brian can sit, Christopher can sit with Brian for an hour until Rob gets home. That should be fine. So she left around, I guess, 4:30, whatever it was. I don't honestly remember. It's 24 years ago. But that was okay with me. And I knew I was going to be late. And, it was Friday afternoon, so there was a little more traffic, a little more things going on, and wrapping up the office, closing it for a long weekend. I probably headed home about 7 p.m. And it was the time of year, obviously, when the daylight was longer and, the sun was still relatively shining. And I actually came home a little bit of a different way, not my usual drive. We lived in a nice little community where, a lot of side streets, a lot of different ways you could, come off the Sunrise Highway, which is what I was on, and I could come off there in any different number of ways. And I just happened to come off in a particular spot where, as I drove down the road, I looked over to my right and I saw this yellow and caution tape as I was crossing going onto my own road. And I'm like, oh gee, Memorial Day weekend, somebody's at it already, there's an accident, right? All the caution tape. So with that, I drive, I pull into the driveway and I see Rob's truck, so I don't think anything of it. I forgot that he actually had ridden the motorcycle to work. So I'm thinking, okay, he's home, no problem. I walk in the house. Now it's a little dark at this point, it's probably about 7:30 or so. So the sun is starting to really set and go down. And there's my oldest son sitting on the kitchen Center Island's countertop, and he's drawing. He loves to draw. And there's Brian in the playpen. And I said to Christopher, where's your father? Outside on the deck? Because I just assumed, all right, Friday. He's out on the deck having a beer, having a smoke. Unfortunately, we smoked back then. Not a good habit. And he probably was unwinding. And he said to me, Daddy's not home yet. And I said, what? So with that, I grabbed my purse. And I just got this sinking, eerie feeling in my stomach, and I opened the front door, and there, I didn't know what to look at first, standing were two men in suits holding Rob's wallet in their hands and the unmarked car in my driveway. And I just lost it. And they're like, relax, he's okay, we just came to get you, may we come in? And of course I said yes. They saw the kids and they said, do you have somebody who can stay with the children? I'm actually losing it. Sorry guys, this was a very emotional time for me. I said, yes, I will call my parents. They live a few blocks away. And I did. I called mom and dad. My dad said, I'm getting in the car, I'm coming right over. So with that, we proceeded to go outside, and he said, I was going to get in my own car. He said, no, please come with us. We'll take you. So they put me in the back of their car, and it was just funny as we were driving. I just remember some of their questions, like, so how long are you guys, just a little bit of small talk going on. How long has he had the motorcycle? And of course I proceeded then to kind of give a lengthy, I guess they were trying to get my mind off of everything that was potentially going on. And I said, well, honestly, it's going to sound really funny, but that was a gift to himself for when his wife passed away. And Robbie, for those of you that don't know it, Robbie was married before me. He literally met his wife when he was like 17, 18 years old. They were like high school sweethearts type, but I don't think they really went to the same high school, but they kind of grew up together and got married pretty young, 20 and 21, out of school, and they got married in 1979. I have to think of the year. I think 1979. I was still in middle school. Anyway, I think that was the year. So, unfortunately, Rob's wife, Lori, she was 18 or 19 weeks pregnant. I can't remember exactly. And she had a brain aneurysm and died. And Robbie lost his wife and his child at the time. So, again, another tragedy in my husband's life. So that was in 1991 she passed away. So they were married for like 13 years, something like that, and she unfortunately had a miscarriage or two, and come to find out later on they really never knew she had this weak blood vessel in her body, and probably what caused the earlier miscarriages, and she just could never, nobody knew that, but she couldn't carry full term. All right, moving forward, fast forwarding, to 2,000 now, and we're in the cop car, and it was actually an unmarked car, and I'm giving them, the kind of the rundown. So they're asking me, like how the whole thing, and you have 2 boys, and I explained my oldest son is actually from my first marriage, but he doesn't really know his father. His father kind of walked away, and Rob's been his, father since Christopher's like 6 or 7. So, okay. And they said, oh, does your husband have any medical conditions? And, of course, with the way we were talking and the way we were going through things like this at the time, we were talking about maybe, he takes some blood pressure medicine. He has a little bit of cholesterol, things like that. Things that when you hit 40s, they start happening to your body, especially being a smoker, especially not being good on a diet and things like that. And in 2000, we probably weren't aware as much as we are here in 2024. And it gets better every year about what we learn, what's good and what's bad. So they proceeded to tell me he had a heart attack. While he was on his motorcycle, and he was being treated at the local hospital, Brunswick, which if anybody is local and knows that hospital, that's the last place you want a heart patient, let alone any patient. That was just like I don't even know if you can compare it to one of today's walk-ins. I would almost think it's worse. But anyway, they could treat a hangnail or a paper cut, but they weren't equipped for any of this. So we went, they parked in, obviously, the emergency room. I ran in. On the way, he asked me if there was anybody else I wanted to call, and my aunt, Eileen, who is kind of like our family consultant, RRN, she lived locally as well. So I said, yes, I'd like to call her. I'd like to give her a heads up. And with that, she said, I'll meet you there. She was always good like that, dropping things on a dime and coming to meet us in an emergency room, in a hospital, whenever we needed her. And she's always, helped me with my mom and my dad and my kids. So that's always been, a blessing. So we got to the hospital, and here's Robbie, blood everywhere, monitors everywhere, and, kind of like the trauma area. And they were still trying to stabilize him. And then, pants ripped, they tore everything, they cut his pants. Funny story, and I just remembered this now. He had like hundreds of dollars in his pants. They threw in the garbage because he cashed his check. It was Friday, and back then we didn't have direct deposit, or if we did, it was fairly new. Probably knowing Robbie, he probably didn't trust it at the time. He'd probably rather go to the bank and cash his check. So whatever. So we had to go dig his bloody pants out of the garbage. And I don't even know what made us think about that, or I don't know, but we did anyway. And maybe it wasn't in the garbage. I don't remember, to be honest with you, but I just remember that was a little bit of a